Hello, and welcome to Taos Podcaster. This is your host, David Mapes. Let's get started. Today on Taos Podcaster, we're discussing disinformation, which is a very big topic. We're fortunate to have Chris Baker, publisher of the Taos News, joining us. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, David. Appreciate to be part of this today.
Of course. So, an associate of mine recently told me she didn't believe journalists and that they didn't tell the truth. And that struck me as like saying water doesn't exist, because in my mind, the very definition of journalism is getting to the truth. Mr. Baker, would you speak to that?
Yeah, I think with so many platforms out there as far as online and getting information through podcast and video, and it's hard to distinguish what is journalism sometimes and what's not. I hope newspapers of record, I would say, and a paper that has a strong following in the community, a newspaper such as the Taos News. And I'm biased because I'm a publisher for 20 years, but we've been in the community since 1959. Before that, there was never a number of different names to it, different owners. But I think that the owner who's invested her entire life into making sure it has journalistic standards. We hire journalists that come out of J school. They have to have a BA and a love for and a passion for journalism, and that doesn't mean we always get it right. That doesn't mean that every story has two or three sources, but it means that we try to do our best when we write a story, and we look at who's saying where it's coming from, who's the source for the story. We have to investigate it, hopefully get two or three quotes from different sources, track it down, and make sure it's correct.
How can the average person distinguish between a paper that might lean more closely to being a
A
tabloid?
tabloid, an alternative newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every newspaper has its own audience. Santa Fe New Mexican is different than the Santa Fe Reporter, which is, Santa Fe Reporter is a weekly, and the New Mexican is covering the hard news. But when you see things online, you might see, as I see every now and then, I'll see something that says NBC.com.co, or I might say something that says, I don't know, BuzzFeed.com.co, where the co is you think you've got a reliable source, but you didn't look deep enough and find out, hey, that's not a legitimate news source. They might change it just a little bit just to get your attention. You'll share it without knowing that it's just some guy maybe working out of his basement just to get his side out. And we all know in the 2016 election, the Russians were involved in misinformation. I'm not trying to get political, but there was they tried to get the other side, one side or the other side, excited by having sensational headlines. And you just got to be careful. A lot of times I'll go into snoops.com and I'll find out information, but it is difficult. But I try to find out how long has this publication been in existence. Where's the source coming from? Is it sometimes you might have these different sites that are comical, or they're putting on just the Onion is one. Onion has a lot of funny, satirical, comical stories, but you know that they are, but you get caught up in that sometimes. So it is difficult. If it's not, sometimes not a byline or an author to the story. If there's no byline to the story, it may look like, where'd this come from? Who's putting this in it? And if there's no sources to the story, and it's just one name, I think we've got a problem. So it is difficult. You might see a lot of bad grammar or spelling errors.
Yeah.
That's an obvious one, but that's something you might not look at. And it's sensational headlines. This headline that seems just to pull you in, and a lot of times it just goes straight to clickbait sites. They're just trying to get you to clickbait it to get more likes, so they get more impressions on their advertising.
Well, you mentioned social media and everything else, and we're inundated with information all day, and we're just exhausted. But do you see any hope that we're going to start figuring out how to be able to determine when we're getting the truth and when we're being misled?
Well, I hope that our friends, the major players, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whoever they may be, and I don't want Big Brother getting too deep into this, but I would hope that they would have more of a way for the reader to know that what they're reading is factual, or this is a reliable source, and they will help the reader through that. They're making the money by using our content and different content from different media sources, so you think they'd be good partners in the whole thing by saying these are good trusted sources. One source of the Economist, a lot of from looks at the United States from a European standpoint and such. I think is a great standard bearer for accurate news. But if there might be something we're saying this is, I know there's people saying like in Twitter that this is the real person that is actually tweeting information. This is a good reliable source. And I don't know, I'm just talking out loud, but they may get 3 stars, 4 stars by showing it. And if you have, I don't know, publications or broadcasters or whatever they may be, podcasters, and they have shown that they have, and they're just, it's not a humor site like the Onion site, but they're actually have a good following, that they would be flagged saying that, so the reader knows it, saying that there might be a check mark or a star or something saying that this source has been known to give out reliable information over the years or the decades. Some of this will die out with time. I don't know, anyone from Russia to China to someone's basement and wherever they may can put out anything they want, and people follow it, like it, share it, and we have a whole. It's polluted throughout the whole system. But I think not. I don't want to get to Big Brother and all this, but I think that our major media channels, whatever they may be, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and the such, Google, they need to be leading and saying, that this is a good source. And they might say this is a bad source, but feel free to read it. I don't want to censor anything. I think if we start censoring information, whenever we go down
Yeah,
that
that's not
road,
good.
that could get into a sticky place. But I do think there should be some sort of parameter or guidelines, or helping people saying, hey, this is not a good source. You might want to double check it.
Right on.